Welcome to the Flipped Classroom intro video. For the next 5 minutes or so, you're going to have the pleasure of listening to my voice as I talk you through some of the foundational parts of creating a flipped classroom. The flipped classroom approach is a term that's kind of bandied around quite a lot at the moment. It's kind of trendy in middle and high school classrooms, especially at the moment. But we're going to take a quick look at what it really is and how it can be an effective tool to use with your students. So what is the flipped classroom? The idea of the flipped classroom is literally turning the dynamic and structure of the traditional classroom on its head. Obviously, unlike Bart Simpson, we're thinking metaphorically rather than literally. So as this graphic shows you, here we see a traditional classroom where teacher is at the front lecturing to all the students who are all facing the same direction and absorbing the knowledge that she gives out. And that's how class time is being used in that classroom. However, over here we see the flipped classroom approach. In this classroom, students have gained the knowledge outside of this learning space or in less traditional ways. So we see the teacher is actually harder to identify because she is over here talking to students and all the students are working on something which they've been set up to do by the flipped classroom approach. And we have a little definition here of it being a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space. And the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in subject matter. So we can just see that the actual time that is being used, the actual class time, is being used in a very different way because of the flipped classroom model, freeing up space in the classroom for that teacher-facing time to be used in a different way other than just transferring information. And so this is a big change in the role of the teacher. The teacher goes from being, and I love this, the kind of sage on the stage, the all-knowing giver of knowledge, to the guide on the side, someone who is probing, encouraging, coaching, teaching smaller groups, asking questions, talking about misconceptions that students might have, and really digging into application of learning and knowledge as opposed to the giving of it. And I think that's the really crucial change for the role of the teacher. Here is a quick video on the Flipped Mastery Classroom, which you should please take a chance to look at later on YouTube. I'll send the link through. And so we've got to ask ourselves, is it an educational buzzword or is it actually getting results in classrooms? Here are a few statistics that kind of show the impact that some teachers have found the flipped classroom to have. It's been found to be especially effective with students who may have diverse needs. So students with special needs, English language learners, students who may require different things at different times have responded really well to the flipped classroom, mainly because of that added teacher-facing time and that time where they can have conversations around the learning with teachers. And so here we have a statistic that 71% of teachers stated that that the flipped classroom improved grades, and this was measured through formative assessments. So before we move on to this, I just wanted to say that everyone knows their own classroom and is the expert of their own classroom, and therefore will have different will have different goals and different approaches to using the flipped classroom technique. It's not something that we need to be doing every day. It's not something we need to like uphaul everything that we've ever done and recreate it to be the flipped classroom. I'm suggesting it as a tool that you can choose when to use for activities that would be best served by this tool. And a few ways that I have done it. It doesn't always involve me sitting at home talking to my computer and making a screencast like this one. I've actually had students create videos which other students can watch to gain the knowledge, and that in itself can be a cool project using technology. I've created my own videos. Down here you can see one example of them on my YouTube channel where we're talking about quotation hamburgers. And you can also use existing videos. There's tons out there of really great subject-specific videos that you can assign to students to watch. A great tool that I've used a lot and I'm using right at this moment is Screencast-O-Matic, which is a free recording screencasting website where you just download a free application and you can use that to create screencasts. But there's tons of other ones out there that you can use, including just YouTube has some capabilities within it that you can actually do something very similar to this. A few things to think about before you assign the flipped classroom assignment to your students. Firstly, like, what will you flip? Are you going to flip a lesson? Are you going to flip a chapter in your book? Are you going to flip just like a small piece of reading that students need to do, or a skill-based lecture? Who will make your videos? You're going to be curating resources that are online, creating your own, or getting students involved in the process. What software will you use? What's going to work on your school site? What's going to be easy and possible for you? Once you've created your video, where will you place it so that your students can access it? I know a lot of our schools in San Jose are using really great online platforms where you can upload assignments. Most students with phones have YouTube on their phones. It can be a great place to store them. There's so many options out there. Just be clear and consistent. How will you check, or will you check, if your students watch or interact with your online content? How will you communicate to your students how to access your flipped content? And even more importantly, how will you ensure equity of access to all your students? How will you teach your students to watch your online content for comprehension? This speaks to the point that we watch instructional videos differently from we would watch a movie or a film. So do you want them to be engaging as they're watching by taking notes or completing some kind of activity alongside it? How will you communicate with your students about flipped learning and like why you're using it? Because it's important for them to know on some kind of metacognitive level why we're using certain teaching approaches. How will you communicate to parents as well about flipped learning and how they can support their children? And then for me, the most important question is, what will you do with that extra class time that is freed up by flipping your classroom? So you're saving a bunch of time by not needing to deliver a lecture or doing direct instruction. So what are you going to replace that with? What powerful learning experiences can you facilitate that students are being able to apply the knowledge and have the chance to like really grapple with it? How are you going to set that up? So these are all really great questions to think about as you're considering flipping your classroom. And so my top tips would just be, if you're considering some kind of flipped learning experience, think ahead, make a plan, make sure you've got clear learning objectives, and put yourself in the student's shoes. What confusions might they have? What logistical issues might they have? Will they know what to do and how to be successful? Connect. That idea of freeing up the time to really connect with your students and engage with them around the learning thinking really clearly about like how you're going to use that exciting opportunity to be a really powerful learning experience. And then get creative. You will do a far better job than I've done on this screencast, which has been put together hastily, but you can make your videos or your online content really, really engaging, relevant, exciting, and really bring the learning to life. And it's a great way to make your students, to engage your students and make it a fun activity. And I think finally, but just most importantly, this is a real chance for us to build a student-centered classroom where we're not delivering content and we're not setting ourselves up as the experts, but encouraging students to see that by accessing flipped learning, they're actually using a lifelong skill that they will need at college, that we use all the time in our lives as adults, of kind of listening and absorbing and learning. And that they can actually build knowledge themselves without relying on the teacher. I think that's an incredibly empowering message to send to our students. So please feel free to peruse some more of the resources on flipped learning before we meet next week. And I'm excited to hear about your thoughts, both critical and constructive, on how you could use it, and be a thought partner as we move forward with lots of different experiments in technology.